Way. So we're going to listen and learn from someone's life story. The hymn writer said, I have a story to tell. And so each of us have a story, and that we must preserve our stories. If not, we will be erased or try to be erased. So it is so important that we tell our story and preserve them. Sister Fight?
We just want to bow our heads in prayer. Most gracious God, we thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for this day. We thank you, Lord, for the Kuumba Chronicle as we continue to let our history not be hidden or taken away from us. And so as we have our speaker today, the Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler, we just thank you, Lord God, for him, for being here. And not only is he here, he's here in California, and he lives on the East Coast. So we're thankful that you brought him here safe and sound on his motorcycle. So we just going to sit back and listen to where his journey came from Oakland to Philadelphia to the Connectional Church as the historiographer. So we thank you, God, for all the opportunity and the learning that we will have. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
So as you heard, our special guest today is Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler, PhD, someone that we all have been able to come in contact with him in our lives and stuff. And so from the Bay to the keeper of the AME treasure history is our special guest today.
So Reverend Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can tell us how you started, from how you got into the ministry and your journey all the way to where you are now.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm just honored to be here. So I'm be off camera for a minute. Once I get situated and stopped, I'll jump on the camera. And today was kind of busy. I preached at Bethel, San Francisco, and did a workshop on preservation right afterwards. So just ran down to grab some food beforehand. So, but listen, I see your faces, Sister Faye, Sister Carol, and I can't think of my AME journey without folk like yourselves, because so much of what I do right now has everything to do with, my upbringing, and from the time I joined Brookings, and so I think I was 19, just about to turn 20. But just, my initial contact with you all, I tell people all the time, it's so funny that I'm the historiographer, because Carol, you may not, I don't know if you remember this. So you and Sister Bales, it was Founders Day of 1987. It had to be 87 because I joined in 86 and I was still way rough around the edges. So it had to be at least a year before y'all cleaned me up enough. Coming out of East Oakland streets, in such as it was. And there was a Founders Day program. And I had been wrestling with, at that time, now I know, was a call to ministry. And so one of you said, we want you to read Richard Allen's part. I didn't even know who Richard Allen was, you all. I was like, so I was the speaker. I see Lynetta on here. Lynetta probably remembers that. But I had to read Richard Allen's part. And after I finished reading it, look, I just read something that was in front of me. But all these people kept coming up to me afterwards like, you're being called to preach. Again, something I had no idea what any of that meant. But in Methodism, we have an understanding about the call to preach. There's a wonderful book written about it called The Yoke of Ministry. And in Methodism, the belief is that if you've been called to preach, that you should have the internal call. That's your own sense of, feeling and being able to articulate that God is calling you. I had that. But we also believe that there should be the outward call, that other people should be able to see it as well. And so looking back at that moment, how ironic is it that my entryway into ordained AME ministry came from the history of the church? So it feels like, this path has been laid out for me ever since the beginning, even in ways and times where I wasn't even thinking about it. As they say, this story started, my story started thanks to the fact that my mother's best friend at the time, Sister Hattie, decided to have a party at her house, an old school Oakland house party in 1965, because it was at that party that my mother met my father. And so I would not be here today if not for Hattie. And so one of the, again, you're talking about history. We should all be really aware of our own personal history, our own personal story, and understand who we need to thank for how we got to where we are. And so I really do. I mean, I thank Hattie because I wouldn't be here without her in that party. And so I was born in Providence Hospital. What do they call Providence now up there on Pill Hill?
Sutter.
Sutter. All right. Well, I was born in Sutter, but Providence back in the day, and spent my entire life up until the time I left for college in Oakland. Had my mother, as you all know very well, the oldest daughter of Iowa Milan, whose name is on the cornerstone there at Brookings. My grandmother came here as a Black Rosie the Riveter in the 1940s during World War II, where she worked in the factories. And if you don't know the history of those Black women who helped in the war effort, I encourage you to go to Richmond. There's a beautiful museum right there on the water at the old Kaiser shipyard, and you will likely see family stories of your own in there. And so she came here, and the first thing that she did was to join Parks Chapel, because our family had actually been founders of Gethsemane AME Church in the 1870s in Comento, Arkansas. I mean, what's blown me away is our family has been AME consistently going all the way back to Pennsylvania and Ohio into the 1840s at least. Because our oldest ancestor was an AME preacher born in 1818, Jesse W. Devine, who moved to Arkansas in 1870, took his family 1869, 1870. But before that, he had pastored in the 3rd District in places where I pastored, you all, right? So that there's this unbroken line of African Methodism in our family going all the way back to that. And now my children are members of the AME Church and active in their own ways. And members of my family have continued. So this AME story continues in Oakland, where Iowa gets here, joins Parks Chapel, then becomes Sandra? Sandra, are you on here? So that became they broke off and started Williams Chapel. Is that right?
Everett's Chapel.
Everett's Chapel. Thank you. Was there a Williams Chapel?
Yeah.
So Williams and Everett merged along with the little Sunday school, right? And that little Sunday school is actually led by a brother whose last name was Hall, if I'm not mistaken.
Al Parham.
No, well, Parham may have been in with him as well. So Mr. Hall lived, I think, in Brook.
Yeah,
in
Mr.
Brook.
Hall, right.
Yeah. He lived in Brookfield, and his son is an AME preacher now in the 1st District. So Art Hall and I are very close. And yeah, so we have this shared kind of like moment where our families are connected, through the founding of Brookings AME Church. So I mean, this is just really, really incredible, all these ways that it just comes together. Now, let me fast forward, because this is cool, but you want to know, my part in this. My mom worked at the post office and really wanted us to have the best education that was possible. She felt by the mid 70s that wasn't going to be possible at the schools that we were assigned in East Oakland. And so she put me and my younger brother in Catholic school. Michael and Sharon, 11 years older, went all the way through Oakland Public, graduated from Castlemont. And I know that she was frustrated with that experience. So she spends every available dime that she has to keep us in Catholic school. St. Cyril's over across from where Brookings was before it went to 73rd. And then later St. Pascal's, and then eventually Bishop O'Dowd. But all of my friends on my block went to Castlemont. Now, I say this to like any parent who's kind of thinking about sending their child to a school for a better education. outside of the experience that they grow up in, be considerate of your children. Because if you don't have a lot of money, don't send them to school with a bunch of rich kids. That is not a great look. I'm going to tell you. I saw somebody on Janae's page like light up. You know, like, I mean, seriously. So everybody in school's pulling up in Mercedes and BMWs. You know, they've all got money to go to college. Everybody's already knowing that they're going to go to Davis or Berkeley or Harvard or UCLA. And, you know, you throw a smaller group of us in, you know, bless their heart, the Catholics, they understood that people needed an opportunity. So they opened the door and created payment plans and gave whatever help they could. But it also created tension in my life that probably, I don't know if it would have been there if not for that experience. And a part of that tension is wanting to still fit in at home, because I spent most of my time with my friends. We all grew up on the same street, all boys, all about the same age. They're at King Estates Middle School. They're at Castlemont. Peer pressure is real. And so I wanted to do everything that I could, my brother and I, to make sure that they knew that we were still cool, we were still with them, and probably did it to excess. I don't know if it would have been the same if I'd gone to Castlemont, where, you know, I'd already been thrown in the gifted program at Howard before going to St. Cyril's. So I was already on kind of a track, but I think that cultural piece really did something. And so, as you all know, because I'm talking to family, I did everything in my power to, my mother didn't know I was just trying to get kicked out. I felt like maybe I just flunk out. You all are not going to believe this if I tell you. I guarantee you that I graduated from O'Dowd with a 1.9 GPA. That's a D average. How do you graduate anywhere with a D average? But O'Dowd was not going to flunk anybody. They were not going to mess up their perfect score. And as long as that check was coming in, they allowed me to stay. And so when I left O'Dowd at 2:30, I would go home, put my 501 jeans on, go to 90th and MacArthur, and wait for my friends at Castlemont. I saw some guys yesterday at a biker event. They're like, "You didn't go to Castlemont?" No, I didn't. I was just kind of always around Castlemont. And so, but as you can imagine, that went from just trying to like keep up with the fellas to all of us as boys just getting into more and more and more trouble, deeper into trouble, from cutting school to getting high to 1984 when I graduated. If anyone has ever seen the TV show Snowfall, it is actually a pretty accurate description. Franklin's life, whoever the writers were, really captured that moment like almost perfectly from the street side. I can't speak to the other storylines and the Mexicans and the FBI and all that, but what was going on in his life in LA was extremely similar to what was happening in East Oakland at that time. And we were caught up right in the middle of it. And so before you know it, with my little Bishop O'Dowd high school diploma and maybe 3 weeks of college at Chabot College, because I hadn't planned to go anywhere, wasn't thinking about college, I end up on the streets in East Oakland with all the rest of the guys on my block, doing everything we can. The worst possible things. As a result, one of my good friends who's on my street, I talked to his brother yesterday. He's been in jail since like 1990, 1991. He got a 3 strikes charge. Didn't kill anybody, didn't even attempt to kill anybody, but it was 3 strikes, that law that was, ushered in during that particular era. We had other friends who were killed before they could even get arrested, or, their families would have preferred that to have been the outcome than the fact that they never even saw the age of 21. And, I remember that moment very well, Faye and Carol. The thing that really stayed on my mind was that the idea that we could make it to the age of 21 felt like it was almost impossible, like it was so far out of reach. And if you could remember the summer of 84 and the summer of 85, even if you just kind of do a Google search real quick about Oakland homicides, they were probably the bloodiest summers ever in Oakland's history. And I mean, it was like almost every day. I want to say it was like about 150 homicides a year. So in a small town like Oakland, where that number should be more like 50, it was like almost every day. And most of those happened in East Oakland, between East 14th and MacArthur, between 106th and down to the 20s. And it was a lot of this violence that was happening because, going back to the show Snowfall, what we didn't know was that it's true. The government came in and took away kind of the stable criminal families who were like running things. There were three families that ran. We're recording, so I won't call their names. But, anybody who knows Oakland's history knows this, that there were three prominent people. And if you look back in a year, all three of them were arrested. It destabilized the streets of Oakland, and it was a bloodbath because we were all 18 or 19 with money, guns, drugs, and nobody in charge. And so the village on 69th, Funktown, every little neighborhood you can think of, cars flying up and down the street, expensive cars, and it was a chaotic time. And so the idea that you might not make it was not hyperbole, because every other day you saw someone getting murdered, and most of the time you knew the person. They may not have been your friend, but you knew them. And there were times where we lost friends. Mike Lewis was one of my closest friends, and was, again, killed at the car wash on 106, sitting in his car. So it was in that experience that I actually feel like God found me. We're never away from God in the sense of God knowing where we are. We lose touch. And I really started, I don't know, it was like somewhere in 80. When did I join Brookings? I joined Brookings on the first Sunday of 86. So this was sometime by 85, right? Maybe almost a year in. And I just really felt like, I don't know, I felt like I hit rock bottom in my own life. For me, it was the prodigal son moment, where just literally I looked around and thought to myself, how did I even get here? I don't even understand how I got here. It was just, I couldn't even go back and take the steps back to get to how far I had gone down and try to figure out like how that happened. So I'm at my mother's house in Castlewood, and I was looking for, I don't know, I just felt like I wanted something to read. So I find, this is like, it's so crazy even talking about it. So I found an album cover. It's Frankie Beverly and Mays' album. I think Back in Stride. It's either Back in Stride or another one. So I throw the album on, I start reading the back of it. And there's like, they're doing all their acknowledgments. They start with, we want to thank God, which was interesting, to me. And then they talk about how they met Marvin Gaye and all that. And then there was a poem called Gaining Through Losing. Now, I've been in the streets. You gain by taking, not losing, right? So I'm kind of intrigued, like, wait, what are they trying to go with this? There's got to be a game or something, right? And I read the poem. It's a beautiful poem. All right. So I'm done reading the album cover. I want to read something else and start looking around. I open up, like, one of those like end tables, excuse me. And there is a King James Bible. I open it up, and it falls right to Isaiah, where he talks about the Spirit of the Lord is upon me to preach good news to the poor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm telling you, like, in that moment, I didn't know what a call to preach was, but it was like instant, like I felt it. And I kept reading, and I read all night long, just reading, passages in the Bible. I'd never been a Bible reader. And I went to sleep, and it was the best sleep I'd had in a year. I mean, I felt like I slept, and I woke up. I felt like I slept like for days. So I didn't know what to do with this stuff, right? This feeling. And the only person I knew who went to church every Sunday, I didn't know Artie went to church like she does, but the only person I knew was Iway. And so I went to my grandmother's house on 106 and San Leandro Boulevard, and we started talking and talking and talking. And she started just telling me everything about God and just like what's happening with me. And it was like the best conversation ever. Now, I fell back in But when I fell back in the street, now I was different and I didn't fit anymore. And I didn't understand when God, has his hand on you. And it started getting dangerous because my brother, my younger brother Kev said to me one day, he said, "Man, you need to make up your mind. You're going to get killed out here." What he meant was like, leave that church stuff alone and come and get, like throw in all the way. But I was like, no, I heard it in a different way. Like, yeah, you're right. I gotta like make up my mind. And so for a few months it kind of went on like that. And the night that you all had watch night service from 85 going into 86, we're in my mother's garage playing, shooting pool like we always did. The whole neighborhood would come. And I got dressed and they were like, "Mark T, where you going?" I said, "Man, I'm going to church." They're like, so of course they just fall out laughing. They're like, "Oh man, how ugly is she? God, you gotta make up a lie like you going to church, like right?" So they just dogged me out. I said, "No, I'm telling you, like literally, I will meet you all later, but I'm going to church. I hear there's like a service or something." And I went to watch night service. I came back that next Sunday, the first Sunday of the year, joined that Sunday, and just left all that stuff behind. And my friends were like, they just like busting my chops every time I see them. They'd be like, "Yo, Bible boy, come read me a story. Tell me about Noah." And over the course of time, though, what the game does is people, start getting killed. People started getting arrested, things of that nature. My choice didn't look so bad anymore to them. And I'd settled my debts. I didn't know anybody, anything. I walked away with nothing. I had no money, not even a car. I was walking. I would walk to Brookings at times just to go to meet my grandmother and all those little stewardesses at the Wednesday prayer meeting. And man, those ladies prayed me off them streets. They were like, I guess they knew, again, they knew what I didn't know. They were like, man, they said they would tarry you all. They had hands on my head, like, "Keep him, Lord, keep him." And their prayers, like, sure enough, worked. And I'll say this maybe kind of as the last couple of things, and then open up for questions. So the way that the schooling came about was my younger brother Kev, again, his girlfriend Deetra. In fact, she's the mom of his son Darren, my nephew. Deetra went to O'Dowd. She was a year ahead of me. And so Deetra saw that I was really trying, and she kept saying, I wasn't working. I was just everywhere I went, like picking up other seniors to go take on the doctor appointments, whatever. I was just trying to keep myself busy. So Deetra says, "Mark, I'm taking a class at Merritt College and it's pretty much free. You should take a class." She said, "This class is called Sociology of the Black Family, and the professor is a former Black Panther." I said, "Oh, that sounds kind of interesting." So I signed up for the class just to kind of occupy myself. The book he assigned for the class was the autobiography of Malcolm X. Now, so I got the Bible in one hand and Malcolm's autobiography in the other. It just was like God had me set up, because Malcolm's autobiography helped me understand that I wasn't the first to go through what I was going through at all. His story was 30 years before mine. He was in the 50s. I was in the 80s, but he's running numbers and drugs in Boston, but it's essentially the same story, except that for him, it was Islam. For me, it was Christianity. And it opened up a thirst for learning that I didn't know existed. So the next semester I took a full load, and I was taking classes at Alameda, at Laney, and Merritt, cross-registering. And I met a great counselor, and I told her, I think I want to transfer to a 4-year school. So she made sure every class I took was transferable to any college in the country. So that when I transferred to Clark, I transferred in as a sophomore, didn't even realize it. But it was because of like getting a wonderful start at the schools here in the Bay Area that, again, back then, I think I told somebody today at church that it was like $29 or some crazy low number for a full load. Like, yeah, you the whole semester maxed out at like something like $29 or $35 or something. And as they say, the rest is history. To Clark, and then the seminary in Ohio, and then pastoring, and then going back for the PhD. But I feel like, for me, talking to this group, like that's the part that means the most, because I'm sitting in Oakland right now talking to you all about it. And there's not a part of Oakland that I don't have a story about. I can drive down any street and we can jump out and I'll give you a story about something happened on that street that I know personally, that I was there, because this is my home. I love it more than anything else. So yeah. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. You know what? I just want to kind of pick at your head and stuff too. I did a little research and was digging up like some of your sermons and how they so connect to our history. And so one of them was, since this is Women History Month, one was entitled Black Women to the Rescue. And that, and then one of my favorites is I Never Saw It Coming, Damar Hamlin, digging ditches and to receive water of our faith, acts of faith. Dig ditches has flash floods of opportunities. Don't miss your opportunity. God will send a blessing. And that is so profound right now is the evolution. Appalling silence of the good people who said and did nothing. It sounds like that's us today. Could you just expand on that a little bit, my brother?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, listen, so today I preached at Bethel, San Francisco. For those who maybe have joined late, I said that earlier. And one of the persons came up to me afterwards. He used to be on, I think, Merritt's. So he was the first Black person on the board for the Peralta colleges. But he said, "Man, you sound like Huey Newton up there." And it was a compliment from him, And I just laughed. In fact, it's crazy. Where I'm parked right now is like right. I can see the apartments where Huey Newton lived on Lakeshore. So, I mean, we're all a part of the culture that we're in, and so let me walk back this way. I teach preaching from time to time at the seminary, and what I share with seminary students in the preaching class is that it is better to be an original than to be a copy. That if God wanted another Creflo Dollar, or God already made Creflo Dollar. God doesn't need a second Creflo Dollar or TD Jakes or whomever. There is a reason that God called you to preach, and that your story is important for God to get God's message through you as a unique individual. I will never forget. I was preaching at my first church in Jeff City, and I've been there about a year. My sermons then sounded a lot like now as far as content is concerned. Delivery, I think, has probably improved over 30 plus years, as you would hope. But this lady came to me, a member of the church, and I don't know if she meant anything by it, but she was like, you'd be all right if you wasn't always preaching all that Black stuff. Now, you got to understand, Jefferson City, Missouri is a very conservative place. You will not even find a record of the civil rights movement or civil rights activity happening in Jeff City. It kind of went right over it, and they benefited from what happened in St. Louis and Kansas City on the opposite ends of the state. And so I kind of get it, and that really put me in a place where I didn't know what to preach for a while. Because a member of your church, when you're a new pastor saying something like that, she was an older woman, kind of authoritative, it just made me feel like maybe I'm doing something wrong. But eventually, I just had to accept the fact that I didn't feel right unless I was preaching what I believe the message God gave me was. In the Bible, Jeremiah says he's talking about his wrestling with being a prophetic voice for God, because every time he opens his mouth, it gets him in trouble. He's like, Lord, look, I don't appreciate the fact that you got me out here like that, right? Like, that's kind of his talking back and forth to God. Like, I'm tired of preaching this message because this message
always gets me in trouble with the authorities, with the high priest. Everybody hates me because I preach what you want me to preach. Then he said to himself, I'm not going to ever say it again. But he said, when I try not to preach what you told me to preach, it becomes like an all consuming fire shut up in my bones. And we turn that into a praise song. It's like fire, fire. We think that's churches, we get weird theology. We think that's actually a good thing. Fire in your bones is like going through chemo or radiation treatment. Everybody I know who's ever gone through something like that talks about how awful it is, like literally putting that kind of pain in you. Jeremiah is not saying that to hype us up and praise. He's saying that the only way I can feel comfortable is to preach this particular message, even though I don't want to. And there have been times I will attest to you that I felt like, oh, I should just do something that's more, more mainstream. Because, like sometimes you just don't want to be controversial. But it's like I have to do what I have to do because this is who God called. He called a kid from East Oakland with all the influence of Oakland, the Panthers coming up with that world. Oakland is what Oakland is, and it shaped me. And so I can't be anything other than what I am. And that's going to either make some people happy or some people upset. But I preach for an audience of one, and that's God. And if God is happy with the message, then I don't have to worry about the rest. The late Howard Thurman said, the results of our preaching should never be our concern. That's God is into the results. We just have to be faithful with the message. So glad to see a lot of my cousins on here too. I see that, nieces and stuff. They're gonna hold all this over my head, I know.
Okay, I'm just trying to tell you, we're broadcasting live from the Brook, okay, 2201 73rd.
That's why I didn't call certain names.
Yeah. So if anyone has a question, please feel free to jump in to ask.
Mark, coming from Oakland and being at the mother church of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, what was that like, and the history that you received once you got there about Richard Allen?
Oh man, so my PhD is in educational leadership from the University of Dayton, and at that time, my dissertation topic was Bishop Daniel Payne, the sixth bishop of the AME Church, who was the apostle of education, and I just fell in love with Daniel Payne's life because I think he's the second most important bishop in the life of the church behind Richard Allen. So much of what we do, Daniel Payne influenced. I mean, he was just a huge figure for good and for not so good, But again, just I didn't think anybody could replace in the AME history Daniel Payne for me is like the most important person on my mind. Boy, when I got to Mother Bethel, let me tell you, man, Richard Allen is a rock star, right? I'm talking about to this day, what would some minor thing, like let's say, because I did hundreds of interviews for media, all kind of different things, because Mother Bethel has always said it's three institutions in one. It's an active church, it's an active museum, and it's an active research archive. So I could, my day could be spent with a researcher from Europe doing stuff on the early Black church, and they want to, kind of go through our archive. Or it could be 150 school children from Philadelphia schools running through our building, touring, or it could be a family reunion, or it could be a revival. I mean, it's such a cool place to be. But I'd sit down with an interviewer. They're coming in, they're not really interested in Richard Allen. They really want to talk to me about, I don't know, some project we're doing. And then they hear me talk about Richard Allen. The next thing I know, the story always, I'm telling you, without fail, it became about Richard Allen. I'm like, this guy, bro, you've been dead for almost 200 years, and his story is still so captivating that people can't get enough of it, and as it should be. So I think the thing that blew me away from being at Mother Bethel was, number one, just how little I appreciated how big he was, you know. And I mean, I left out of there like now I'm like the biggest fan of Richard Allen and promoting his story and all the various ways in which, you know, he helped shape the AME church. And then number two, how important Mother Bethel having that land is and that church on that land. We say it's the oldest continuously held parcel of land in by Black people in America. And the distinction is there were certainly Black people who owned land before 1791, but from 1791 to the present, it has been uninterrupted in our hands. And we have not found anybody yet who could dispute that claim. And so that's extremely important because um, St. Thomas, where Absalom Jones started, remember they walked out together, and the group, the majority decided they wanted to join the white Episcopal Church, but be the first Black congregation in it. And Allen said, "No, we're going to still be Methodist, but we're going to help you get your building up." Over the course of that time, from 1794, when both of them got their buildings up, St. Thomas has moved 4 times to different locations. They're like so far away from where they started, it's crazy. And they don't own any of that land, which was right across, they were actually right across the street from where the Declaration of Independence was signed. Man, if they would have kept that property, it would have been worth, I don't know, 30 or $40 million now. But they moved, now they moved to follow their people. So they are a larger, stronger congregation because they have not been subject to the ways in which you lose members through gentrification. Mother Bethel has stayed and also had 4 buildings on the same location. So interesting that both needed 4 different kind of moves, but because Mother Bethel is the oldest land, it has so much mystique, you know. It's kind of like the Raiders. It has its own mystique. Like, you know, may have seen better days, but it's like, yo, this is Mother Bethel. It's the history. It is what it is. Like, yeah, there may be churches that have more people that are more prominent now, but like, you're never gonna knock Mother Bethel off its pedestal. And as time goes on, um, the mystique only grows, right? And I'll say, you asked how was it, man, I've always said this, I said it from the beginning and I still say it, that it was surreal. That's the best word I can use, surreal, because it never felt real. I'm like, I just told you all the stuff from East Oakland. Like, my greatest ambition in like 86 was live to see 87. That was it. Don't end up in prison in 87. Like, that was, I feel like everything that has happened since then has just been overtime and just absolutely undeserved. So to have a chance to go there, it just, I mean, and in our family, I told you, like, we've been AME since the beginning, right? So one of the days I just broke down was going through minutes of some general conferences in 1864, I think was when Mother Bethel hosted it many times, general conference, but I think it was 64. And I was like, wait a minute, was Jesse Divine there? And I start going through the daily minutes. Man, not only was he there, he's there leading devotions. He's there. And I'm thinking like, dude, like your great, 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 great grandson became pastor here. Shh. That's just, I mean, you know, we're as AMEs, it can't get any better.
Mark, this is Sandra Bales. I have a question. I do remember you coming to Bible study, and you said you felt you were out of place with all the little kids that were there, and they were much younger. Some of them were much younger than you were, but you offered them some advice for if they got in the system, how to get out of the system, and what they needed to do to do that. So I wanted to know if that advice still stands good, if you still, or if you have some new advice for our young people, because I guess, again, things are hard. And like you're saying, money is getting short, and we've got the orange man now who's doing some fantastic things. And just what is your advice to them to try to stay on the path?
Well, I mean, I think it has to be twofold, right? It also has to be parental as well. Um, because, listen, my mother did what she thought was the best, and I don't necessarily disagree with that, which is that, she wanted us to she knew education was the way out and that it would open doors. I mean, because look, even with that 1.9 GPA coming out of O'Dowd, I came out of O'Dowd, right? They
Mhm.
they don't they
That's
don't know
right.
that, right? And that is
Uh-huh.
and what she understood was like, boy, that is your golden ticket. I mean, honestly, one day I was totally up to no good. We got pulled over by the police, and I swear to you, I'd already graduated a year before, but I still kept that ID. I don't know, I wasn't even thinking. And the cop goes through my stuff, and and I hear them. They actually had us dead to right. We were the people they were looking for. I promise you. And I heard it was on 90th and MacArthur in front of the car wash that used to be there. And he looks, he said, they're talking to each other like, man, this kid went to O'Dowd. This can't be them. Put my stuff in and gave and said, y'all go ahead and leave. Just laugh. That's probably when it dawned on me, like, man, this is crazy. I mean, it's because they had a perception, right? Like, there's no way going there you could be like the people that we're looking for, right?
Mhm.
And so I appreciate all of that, but I think as parents, though, the ultimate thing is we want to put our children in places where they're going to
Mhm.
be most successful and win. And I know that all of us as parents, when we look back on the jobs that we did, probably have questions like maybe I pushed them too soon, maybe I didn't push them enough, things of that nature. But I think what I learned from my experience, and I tried to like share this with my four kids who are now all in their 20s now. Well, the oldest is now 30. But
Oh,
yeah, I know Nishan's 30 with two kids and married. Yeah. So, but what I tried to do is kind of support them and try to hear them on the issues that were important to them that I may not have thought was an issue. You know what I mean? Like the clothes that they wear or things of that nature. The things that like I didn't want them to feel like I felt where you have to go out and do crazy stuff to fit in. But at the same time, I'm not going to overindulge you either and give you everything that you want. It has to be a balance. But like I just think like that there's a big part that parents play. And I think the old assumption was if I just pay to get you in the right place, that place will do the rest. But that place will not do the rest. And a lot of these white spaces don't even want our children in there to begin with. They take them for whatever reasons. And if the kid doesn't like want to totally assimilate and but still wants to retain kind of your sense of black culture and blend them together, that's not always appreciated. So I mean I had the benefit of my own experience that went sideways to kind of help me with them. And again, I'm not saying it was perfect. So I think I would start with the adults who are surrounding and supporting the young people. And then with the young people, if we give them the right support, hopefully, they'll be strong enough to be able to withstand the pressure that comes just from being young. And I don't care what environment you're in, that's going to always happen. So we have to really kind of build them up to be able to be their own young men and their own young women, to not feel like you got to move because somebody called you a punk, because somebody, like I'll never forget one of the most, I think, kind of like moments for me that I don't know, man. It was like it almost feels like it was a movie I was watching from somebody else. Like I'm in the car with three of my friends whose names again I won't call because we're recording this. Um, and one of them had gotten jumped by from guys from another like gang. And so the person got jumped, didn't get killed, didn't get shot. So the reaction was, let's load this car with a bunch of guns and go shoot up this block. So we're in the car on our way, and I'm like, wait a minute, like, bro, this don't make any sense. Like, first of all, you didn't get shot. So, secondly, the street we're going to, you don't even know if these are the same people. They're just affiliated with the same gang. Like, so you just gonna go shoot up an entire neighborhood because you mad because you got your feelings hurt. And I mean, so now I'm in the car literally going back and forth with everybody, me against the three of them. They calling me everything. You a punk, you soft, you a F, you this, all of that, right? I was like, bro, pull the car over, man. Just pull it over. Right there on like where my sister used to live, like 98th and between MacArthur and Bancroft. Like, where you going? I said, I'm going back to my house. Like, y'all can do whatever you want to do, but I'm gonna tell you, like, I ain't down with this. And now this is before I got like converted. So I just had kind of a moral compass on the inside that said that doesn't make sense. And I didn't care what they thought about it. And I went on home. Now, thank God they never found anybody. That didn't happen. And the person who got jumped, it got resolved. He was able to fight that person 1-to-1 and won. And, everybody went home and lived happily ever after, except the dude who got beat up. But point is, like, I think, to your question, it's like, how do we help build young people who have enough within them? Because, I mean, that's a dramatic story, and most people will never, thankfully, have a story like that. But our young people have similar stories where it involves taking drugs that they know will hurt them, where it involves like overindulging in drink, where it involves, sex when they're not ready. It's like all these same kind of pressures that all of us on this Zoom that are grown have gone through. They will all go through the same thing. So the best thing I think we can do is try to help put them in a position where they can literally walk away even when where their friends are making them feel like so small and like they're the only one that doesn't do it. Hope that answers the question, Carol.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we have a question in the chat. How has your preaching impacted your political interactions and vice versa?
Oh, well, I was just talking about Jeremiah. When I was pastor Mother Bethel, I didn't get a lot of invitations by mayors because, I mean, a lot of people want to, this goes beyond the preaching, right? Because the prophetic ministry is not just from the pulpit; it's also what you do and how you move. The group I was with, Power, is affiliated with OCO. We're from the Pico Network, and I helped found it because I knew about OCO in Oakland. And I mean, so you already know how for those who know OCO or Boca in Berkeley, Fay, we were very much like that. And so that meant like, look, yeah, I know you're a black mayor, and I know typically we're supposed to kind of give you a pass, but we want more funding and want people to get better wages at the airport, and you control that. So we're not here to like be your friend. We're here to give jobs for these poor people who are making $3 and $5 an hour in tip jobs. And by the way, can't ask for tips or let people know they're tip jobs. Like, that's just crazy. Get them up to $15 an hour and then keep it going from there. And that does not make you popular. So again, I think this kind of ties in honestly to the last piece, right? Which is, if your main goal in ministry is to be popular, then you're in the wrong profession. Because, again, there are a lot of things I could have gotten that I did not get. I know because there were politicians in Philly who blocked it, who were just like, no, we're not giving Tyler nothing. He talked about me on the radio. And I was like, no, I talked about what you did. That's very different. I never talked about anybody in a personal way. Like, that's not personal. This is about the policy that you put forward as an elected official that I feel is hurting our people. And, so doing that means that sometimes you're an outcast on an island, and you don't get the invitation to this, like the inauguration or whatever. But by the same token, I also learned there were always people on the inside who appreciated what I said and what I did. And they would be the ones. So like when I went to Sharon, I don't know if Sharon's on here. We went to Obama's first inauguration. And so Leslie and we took my sister Sharon, she flew out and we went. I got those tickets from an elected official in Jersey, and I was pastoring in Pennsylvania. Nobody in PA would give me a ticket. But somebody in Jersey was like, oh, yeah, we love what you're doing, hooked it up. So, like, I don't worry about that stuff.
All right. So, sir, much appreciated. Love the story, love the journey. Probably be calling on you further on down the line somewhere. But for those on the line and on the Zoom, remember, these are our stories, our truths, and they're told in our own special way. So continue to tell your story and be accountable for your story. The Kuumba Chronicles are brought to you by Faye Combs and Jana Nix and myself. So amen and ashe to everybody that joined us today. And thank you so very much.
Wait, Carol, I forgot one thing. I'm looking at Sister Bales.
Okay.
So when our families all came here in the Great Migration, my mother babysat Sandra. Sandra babysat my older brother and sister.
Right.
I'm talking about, like, you talk about generational, the way in which
Your
these
mother.
families all supported each other. And then me and Lynetta were in Ohio at the same time when she was at Wilberforce and I was at Payne.
Sir.
Is that I could have swore I heard my sister Sharon like laughing.
That's Lynetta.
That's Sandra.
Sandra and Lynetta.
So I'm sorry. These personal connections and the ways our families stay together. Nobody makes it on their own, but people helped each other and we had to even be each other's babysitters. So thank y'all. And thank you for helping me and opening the door, YPD directors from back in the day. Even though, yes, you put me in class with them little kids, and I still don't appreciate that. Like, what am I doing here? Got me feel like I'm in a slow
But you were a
class.
great inspiration, and you provided a lot of knowledge for me. So it was beautiful. It worked. You didn't see it, but we saw it. So some of the things they were saying and telling me, you disputed that and let them know some things that they needed to do. And if they wanted to get out of the game, they had to get rid of everything. They couldn't owe anybody. Long as they owed somebody, then they're always beholden, and they're going to have to pay one day, sooner or later.
So, I know I did say that. You're right about it.
Yeah, I know some things I remember, a lot of things I can't remember, but that one I got.
Well, thanks you all. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, Reverend Mark, we really thank you for taking the opportunity to be with us. And as we contacted you and we went back and forth and your dates and everything worked out fine for us, we really appreciate it. And you love Oakland so much and you love us so much that you saved the airplane ticket and came on your motorcycle and met some of your friends and you all came across country. So we're wishing that you have a safe trip back home and enjoy your week, your time here at home. And your sister Sharon is on.
I heard her.
Okay, Mark, this is Miss Bales again. Do you ride with a particular group or club?
Yeah, the 06 Riders Motorcycle Club. We're all members of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity.
Oh, okay. I thought it might have been the Buffalo Soldiers. I got you. Okay.
You kind of can imagine. We always tell people we're like a smaller version of the Buffalo Soldiers because there's only a small group of alphas that actually ride. But yeah, we're very, very similar to Buffalo Soldiers and even how we move. Yep, great example.
This is Sandra Babcock in Florida. Were you here for Black Bike Week? Do you come down for that?
I do, but I had a funeral this year. I had my room reserved and everything, but I had a funeral from somebody who their family has become like our New Jersey family out there, the Briscoes, and no way I was not going to be there. So I had to miss Bike Week this year, but I was there last year. So yeah, we love it.
And I was raised in Jersey. I know the Briscoe family.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. So Helen passed away, the older sister.
Mm-hmm.
Good to see. All right, y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and be safe. Peace and blessings upon you and your family.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you. I'll receive all of that. Talk to y'all.
Thank you.
All right.